Well, today I want to have a conversation that I think a lot of people can identify with obsessing over someone after a first date. Can you already identify? Thank you so much for joining us again on Second Act TV. Welcoming back Sandy Weiner, the dating coach, founder of Last First Date, and author of Choice Points in Dating. Sandy, thanks for being here again.
Great to be back, Silke.
Well, today I want to have a conversation that I think a lot of people can identify with, and that is obsessing over someone after a first date. Can you already identify? This is so common. And even at this time in life when we think we're not teenagers, but when we get back out there, we finally meet up with someone that, yeah, checks all the boxes. We had a good time. We're just like, can't wait to see him again. And we can't get him out of our head. What is it about obsessing on a first date that really is unhealthy?
Well, we don't know them. And it's so easy to, especially as you say, like we finally meet somebody who checks the boxes. We think we have met this unicorn, this amazing person
Yeah.
we've been looking for. I remember recently somebody went on a date with a guy who said, "What are you looking for?" And she was so amazed that he asked that question on a first date, and he was clear that he was looking for a girlfriend, that she thought this was it. He's an amazing person because he asked that question. Well, his behavior after that first date did not line up with "I want a girlfriend" because he was not really asking her out. And it was last minute, it was a lot of booty calls.
Yeah.
So, we can make it into something or we can slow it down.
I think for me, the important thing here is that we recognize that what we're feeling may be an obsession, and it could hurt us because it causes stress, it causes anxiety. For some people, it takes over their life. They can't do regular work because they're obsessing and thinking about this person. Why hasn't he texted? And blah blah blah. While I say these words, I did that.
Me
I mean, I
too.
remember now all of a sudden you're needy, you're possessive, and it's just a really uncomfortable state to be in. One of the downsides of a great first date is that just because it was great for you doesn't mean that it necessarily was great for the other person. And that maybe drives us into that obsessing mode. So let's talk about some of the signs of obsessing. You have three signs of obsessing. First one here, you keep checking your phone, waiting for them to call or text.
Yeah. That obsessive, where's the notification? Oh my God, they haven't texted yet. I texted them when the date was over. I told them how great it was. And so, yeah, that constant checking is going to make you crazy. And I'm a big believer in putting your phone away, turning off notifications. You don't need to be checking your texts. If that person reaches out, they'll reach out.
Yeah. Do you think that's more women do that than men? Do you think men fall into that as well?
Probably more women than men, but I,
Hmm.
I've I've known men to have that same level of anxiety, especially if you really think this person was special. You want
Hmm.
something to happen. You're trying to force something to happen.
Hmm. Yeah, and that kind of thinking it's crazy making. So if you can identify with this, understand that this is one big sign that you may be obsessing, an extreme state of infatuation. The other here, number two, you stop dating other people. I have a couple of questions about that for you.
I know people who have had a great first date and then they stop responding to other messages in their inbox when they're online dating. They think this is so special that they don't really want to date other people.
Hmm.
And again, you don't know this person. You have projected so much onto them that you're shutting everything down. And again, that leads to more anxiety of I hope that person is the one. And
Mhm.
oh man, I used to do this all the time. And it makes you nuts.
Here's my question on that. On other segments, well, with you, with other people, we've talked about, not just dating so many people at the same time. That maybe it's best to slow down and concentrate on one person at a time. So where's the fine line between that and obsessing? I mean, maybe we should, if we really like this person, go with them first.
Yeah, so there is a fine line, and the fine line happens when you're already dating. You've been on a few dates, you already know a little bit about them. And it also
Mm-hmm.
depends on your attachment style. So if
Mm-hmm.
you are an anxiously attaching kind of person,
Mm-hmm.
you know yourself that you're going to want to be with this person right away. And if you put all your eggs in one basket, it's going to
Mm-hmm.
lead to possible disappointment. Then I would say date at least three people at a time before making up your mind, because you can compare. It's easy to be shiny and amazing and incredible on a first date. You can show up and be the most incredible person, but are you consistently that person? What
Mm-hmm.
happens when there's stress? What happens when are you going to be late? I mean, there's so many things that could pop up after that first date.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is part of the issue, is that we don't know them yet. And I would say that you start to date only one person once you've been on a few dates and you know that you're okay dating only one person. If you're more of the avoidant type,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to want to concentrate more on dating one at a time, because you tend to be done really quickly with people.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's know yourself,
Yeah.
but after one date, you don't know anybody.
That's really a great point. We're talking about the first date here. We're not necessarily talking about being obsessive in a relationship. That's a whole other conversation. So yeah, that's good advice. See, after one date, you're right. You don't know them. I'll share just a really quick story. I mean, that happened to me when I first got back out there. I met someone that I thought this was the one. All the signs were on the wall, there. I mean, it was really kind of funny when looking back at it now. But I remember being at an event with my friends, and I literally was checking my text every 5 minutes to see if he had contacted me. It was a horrible time. I just blew the whole evening with my friends. That's obsession. So if you're doing that, stop. Take it from
Yes.
me. It's not gonna. It didn't work out. You make up stories about them is your third point here. What exactly do you mean by that?
So you create stories because, again, you don't know this person. So we start to make up stories about why they haven't texted or called, or maybe we excuse them and we make up a story about how busy they are. And they're so amazing that they're busy and they'll call or text when they're ready. Or we can also create stories about what we did wrong. And that becomes
Mm,
very self sabotaging. What did I say or do? And if I only said this or did that, and
yeah.
maybe I'm not pretty enough or handsome enough, and maybe I wasn't smart enough. Oh, I should have said this. I should have done that. We could, again, crazy
Shouldn't have
making.
done, yeah.
Yeah. So they're just stories, they're not facts. And we have to
Mm-hmm.
stop ourselves when we realize that we're filling in the blanks again. We're trying to figure out what happened, and a lot of times when you go on a great first date, it ends with a kiss. It ends with somebody making out with you, and then they never call. Like it could be the most incredible conversation. The person doesn't call, and we have no idea why.
Mm-hmm.
So whether they call or don't call, I mean, they could call. This could
Mm-hmm.
be a first date that was great that ended up in a relationship. After that first date, we don't have enough information yet. And
Mm-hmm.
so we have to slow ourselves down, do the right things after that first date so that we don't fall into these traps of obsession.
Yeah. I think that two of the best pieces of advice that I received, what you said, that understanding that you're making up stories, when that was explained to me or somebody else, it just made so much sense. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm making up stories in my head and they don't mean anything. They absolutely do not mean anything. And when you can get your head around that helps. And then just the importance or the lack of importance really of that first date. that we put so much value on that, and it's not there. First dates are to I think you said that, to learn about someone, not to decide that they're the one. And once you can understand that, I think it makes the dating process and maybe the rejection process that ultimately happens when you first date, maybe a little bit easier to swallow.
I want to piggyback on what you just said,
Okay.
because one of my favorite things to remember is that we are discovering, not deciding.
Mm-hmm.
Discover, don't decide. These first dates, these first months with somebody are still for discovery. We don't know enough to lock anything down. I mean, we may want to focus on that person, we may want to explore, but we don't know them yet. And it
Mm-hmm.
takes a while to know somebody. They may be great for 3 months, and then all of a sudden you realize they've got all this stuff in the past that is coming up that they've never taken care of. And
Yeah.
you're triggering each other like crazy, and then they suddenly walk away. Like, we just don't know.
Well, so how do we stop obsessing, Sandy? What some tips here? Right.
So, to stop obsessing after that great first date, first of all, just remember that you don't know them yet. It's a great date. Person was charming, person
Mm-hmm.
was attentive, maybe they were sexy, maybe you had that great first kiss, but what's their character like? We don't know yet. So we
Mm-hmm.
barely know them. This is a time for discovery.
So should you slap yourself?
If that helps, so definitely you can slap yourself.
I that would help. I mean, like I said, I definitely can identify with that. I not just with dating, but just anything. I tend to get really excited about things and just throw myself into it. And this is the best thing. And now I'm going to do this. And I'm a big follow through person. So in one sense, that's good, but in many senses, it's also very disappointing when things don't work out. So yeah, remember that you don't know yet. There's so much more to discover. And keep dating others, your second point. Yeah, again, we sort of hit that with the caveat.
Yeah, keep dating other people. When you date, and I say up to 3 people at a time,
Mm-hmm.
because you just want to be able to see, is this person, maybe they showed up amazing on that first date, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe not so much on the second and third. And then how's the next person who you thought you wouldn't have a connection with, but you're getting to know them and you're getting to like them more. So it's kind of that slow build. And so when you're dating other people, you have something to compare to, and you can get out of that fantasy obsession and get into reality more.
Yeah, you're not married yet.
Yes. Don't wear your wedding dress to your first date. Very good advice.
Oh, that's funny. Well, and then you say live your best life. That's kind of sums it all up, that the dating process does present so many opportunities, a new change in life, a new start in life. Don't forget your life, and to and live your best life. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think people neglect certain parts of their lives when they're
Mm-hmm.
focused on finding a partner. And to me, the most sexy thing is somebody whose life is full. You have passions, you have hobbies, you're staying in shape, you're working out, you're eating healthy, you have good friendships that
Mm-hmm.
don't get dismissed when you're
Mm-hmm.
dating. And if you fill your life up with the things and people that you love, and you're really aligned with your own values,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have an easier time with dating. You will not be as obsessive as you might have been when your life was less full,
Mm-hmm.
because that gives you that balance. And I think we all need to have balance. Somebody should add value to your life, not complete your life.
I think that if you tend to obsess, and again, I'm talking to me as well, and if a relationship does develop with that particular person, there's a high chance, and I'm asking you, that you carry that into the relationship, that obsession remains, and you really do lose yourself. I think I'm describing anxious attachment, right?
Yeah, and I definitely did that in many
Mm-hmm.
relationships. I would give up my the things that were important to me
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't yet have a secure attachment, and I didn't have my self-esteem in check.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we don't realize it until we're way in, and looking back, like you said, like that checking the phone and the texting,
Mhm.
and why didn't that person text? When you look back and you see, what was I basing this thing on?
Mhm.
And I did this actually the other day. I had a relationship a year or two ago, and I thought this guy was amazing. And we had a
Mhm.
kind of a slow build to the relationship. It was a lot of texting before we
Mhm.
met because he lived in another country. And I looked back and I was like, it was sweet, but there was really nothing there.
Mhm.
We didn't
Mhm.
really build on anything.
Mhm.
And I just thought, oh, well, there's potential here. Let me just keep
Mhm.
going. And, and then it was just like, okay, we're done. And so, yeah, kids, just live that life, live your best life, be really clear what your values
Mhm.
are, what's important to you, and don't give that up for anybody.
What I like about your example is that you were open. There's nothing wrong with being open to those kind of relationships. I guess, like as you also said, don't hang your hat on it. And
Yeah.
so there's lots to be said. So many issues that we have to go through when we first start dating again. And sometimes it just helps so much to have a conversation like this that you hear where you realize, one, you're not unique. That what you're going through, even at this age, is normal, not good, but it's normal. So we are coming to the end again, something we can talk about forever. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you? Anything you want to add on this topic, Sandy?
I think just obsessing in general, like you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, this is not just about dating. And in
Mm-hmm.
fact, I always say dating advice is life advice. It's
Yes.
really look at the other parts of your life where
Mm-hmm.
maybe you got a job offer and you were like, oh my God, this is perfect.
Yes.
And you had one interview and you thought this is the perfect job and it didn't work out. And
Mm-hmm.
you were defeated. And
Mm-hmm.
it turned out that something better was in store for you. And
Right.
often the things that disappoint us when we've built something up into something that it isn't,
Mm-hmm.
we are setting ourselves up for disappointment. But when
Right.
we realize that there's something better, that if that person didn't call you, it's not the end of your life. You don't want to be with somebody who
Right.
shows up amazingly on a first date and then doesn't follow through.
Great, great advice as always, Sandy. Thank you. Well,
You're
I
welcome.
will link to all of your information. If you would like to contact Sandy directly, she's a wonderful coach. As you can see, she works with both men and women, and we have the link in the show notes. And then, of course, your book, the template from many of these conversations and many of these issues that we talk about. And Sandy, I so look forward to our next conversation on Second Act TV.